As corny as this may sound, I've always wanted to become a force to be reckoned with. I've always wanted to be an absolute unit of an individual, not just having a nice and muscular body, but being developed in every domain of life. I wanted to become multidimensionally jacked. I wanted to max out all of my stats. I didn't want to be an NPC. I wanted to be a level 100 player. All areas of the map unlocked. Maxed out physicality, intellect, and professions. Bank overflowing with gold. I wanted to do it all. Mind, body, spirit, relationships, money. And this desire has drastically influenced how I live my life and what I pursue. As a teenager, I became obsessed with fitness. Then I wanted to absorb as much knowledge as possible. Then I wanted to be free, so I failed at multiple different business models until one finally worked. I've had various spiritual and philosophical stints that have given me a deeper perspective on what most people see as superficial things like fitness or money. That's why I wrote the book, Purpose and Profit, because most people think those two things don't go together. Now, over the past 15 years, I've researched the depths of psychology, personal development, philosophy, social dynamics, technology, the internet, startups, money, religion, and meaning. So after writing about my findings online for the past 5 years, I've noticed critical overlapping patterns that have begun to form a new philosophy for today's world. That's where Human 3.0 comes in. I want to synthesize everything I've learned into one comprehensive map to navigate the modern landscape. I want to provide you with the knowledge, skills, and principles that help you escape mediocrity and actualize your highest potential. Now, I will attempt to make this as non-dogmatic and scientific as possible, but I also want to get the point across with clarity and conviction. And if I just water things down all day with like, oh, here's the science, here's the nuance, then it starts to lose its impact. So I'm placing the burden of nuance on you, the viewer. Now, there are plenty of incredible models and gurus out there to follow or adopt so that you can find more clarity and meaning in your life. Things like spiral dynamics for psychology, Buddhism and Christianity for meaning, materialism and mentalism for the nature of reality, e-commerce and consulting for business, red pill and feminism for social dynamics, and so on. Anywhere you look, you can find hundreds of mental models that promise you the answer to all of your problems. Now, all of them have their truths, they're just a perspective, but the critical flaw is that most of them are just isolated to one domain. We learn math, English, and science as singular, siloed classes when knowledge is a web. We dissect frogs in a lab and draw conclusions without considering the entirety of the ecosystem and interconnected relationships from which they come. Beyond that, and for some this is a hard pill to swallow, many spiritual teachers have frail bodies. Many businessmen can't maintain relationships. Many alpha males are emotionally unaligned. And while these are incredible things on their own to be developed in one domain, it is growing increasingly rare that a single person is truly self-developed. Now, even if these mental models do cover multiple domains of life, like the ancient Greek philosophies, they were often created and prevalent before the internet and AI and technology, before those started to change everything. And on a more important note, very few of them talk about money, which is surprising because that's what dominates most people's minds and lives. So today we will lay the foundation for Human 3.0, and just so you're aware, I do have a Human 3.0 knowledge base linked in the description and a metatype prompt. You don't know what a metatype is yet, but once we get to the end where we actually talk about metatypes and what they are, then you can find where you lie on the Human 3.0 graph to kind of map your development. So to get started, Human 3.0, a map to reach the 1%, to reach your potential. This model offers the big picture. It is not a dogmatic set of actionable steps, but a set of guidelines for reaching your maximum potential that allows you to bust through mental, physical, spiritual, and vocational plateaus. So vocational is like business or how you contribute to the world. It orients patterns found across human development and builds on top of various scientific, psychological, spiritual, and vocational models that have already done a lot of the heavy lifting. So my goal is to take the best parts of the world's greatest theories and apply them to the life of the individual, to you. And once you understand this model, you can begin to map where your current level of development lies within each quadrant, which gives you your archetype for the quadrant, and then you can map what your overall development looks like, or your metatype for all 4 quadrants, and then you can attempt to move further toward a 3.0 plus level metatype, one who has maximized all areas of life. So as an overview, here is what the Human 3.0 model looks like, right? There are 4 quadrants: mind, body, spirit, vocation. These represent the 4 domains of life, or the 4 fundamental perspectives, as Ken Wilber says, that allows us to create a generalized map of reality. So in the mind quadrant, you have your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and internal world. It's how you interpret the world. This is your personal mental world. So this is the interior subjective world. So you have your personal interior world, and then you have your personal exterior world, which is your body. So your behavior and appearance. It's how the world interprets you, your habits and actions. And then you have the spirit domain, which is the collective mental world, or the collective interior world. This is your relationship to your environment, community, culture, family, friends, colleagues, and reality. It's the domain of meaning and connection. And then you have the collective physical world, which is vocation. So this is the collective external worlds. So you have personal interior, personal exterior, collective interior, collective exterior. So the vocation domain is your relationship to systems, structures, and social institutions. This is your education, career, and economy, how you contribute to society. Now within this quadrant, there are a few things to note. There are 3 levels of development. There's human 1.0, human 2.0, human 3.0. Within each level, red, blue, and green, 1, 2, and 3, there are 3 phases that you must go through to reach the next level, which is dissonance, uncertainty, and discovery. And then in order to advance through each phase, you need to acquire specific traits, which is knowledge, experience, and skill. This map of reality prevents partial thinking and doesn't reduce problems to one perspective. An internal mental problem may not be best solved by vocational means like getting a new job. A spiritual problem may not be best solved by bodily means like nutrition. A capitalist and Christian are developed in their respective domains, but will experience unnecessary pain when trying to apply their model to problems within other domains. Money often doesn't solve for meaning and vice versa, but that doesn't mean they aren't intimately connected. All of these domains overlap, and by developing yourself in all of the above, you begin to live a life where you become in control of your future. Since life, development, and evolution follow a general unfolding toward more chaos or complexity, and ordered structures are created to contain that chaos, we can call the process of life, especially your personal life, problem solving. So if that last part kind of confused you, stick with me as we explain this, because we're starting off a bit deep here. A seed unfolds until it becomes a flower. A flower is many times more complex than a seed, and to reach that state, it needs resources from its environment to self-develop. The seed has the natural desire to grow, and through many courses of evolution, it has solved the problems that have led to many other species of plants dying off. Now, one may not think that a seed is consciously trying to solve problems, but still, through observing how a seed evolves and connecting that to our personal life, that's what we would call it in our personal life, is solving problems so that we can survive and grow. And we call it that because we have language. Seeds and plants don't have language. We can label their behavior. They can't. So we can start to understand that there is a natural flow of life toward greater complexity. Complexity introduces problems, and to constrain the entropy that stems from complexity, an ordered structure must emerge through creation. As an example, in your own personal growth or personal evolution, you have the desire to reach your potential. Then you take a step into the unknown and are introduced to complexity or chaos. Then you acquire knowledge and skill to solve problems that prevent forward movement or stagnate and let chaos consume you. Then your identity expands and ascends to a new level. And then the process repeats unless you get stuck. Now, if that didn't make any sense, then after you go through this video, I would encourage you to re-watch this video maybe a week from now, because this pattern that we just discussed can be noticed and observed across all planes of reality. So we already touched on quadrants, and we want to move over to levels to understand that. But for quadrants themselves, we have 4 quadrants: mind, body, spirit, vocation. And these were adapted from Ken Wilber's AQAL model, which is extensive in and of itself. If you want to understand this more, watch my video called "This Mental Model Will Help You Think Like a Genius." And one thing to note here is that there are cross-quadrant unlock patterns, because we just talked about how growth or evolution or ascending to the next level or reaching a new level is about solving problems, but life problems within a specific domain are often blocked by a lack of development in another. So body unlocks spirit, where physical vitality creates energy for deeper connections and presence. Mind unlocks vocation, so mental clarity reveals authentic career paths and creative solutions. Vocation unlocks body. Financial stability enables investment in health and training. Spirit unlocks mind, where community support provides safety to question beliefs. Body unlocks mind, so exercise and nutrition directly impact cognitive function. And mind unlocks spirit, so self-awareness enables genuine intimacy and connection. So if you're a person, an ambitious person who is building a business, becoming a creator, becoming an entrepreneur, trying to advance in their career, you're all about the money because you understand money is important, but you're neglecting other areas of your life. You have to understand that you can only get so far in business when other areas of your life fall down. If you think of a skill tree in a video game, when you've played it, you choose a skill and then that creates branches to other skills. But the ones over here on the right are still grayed out. You can't access them until you hit the right level and you unlock the right sequence of skills in order to unlock those ones. So you don't even know what you're capable of in business or how far you can go or how much you're missing out on because you haven't prioritized any part of your mind, your body, or your spirit. You're just focused on vocation. And now this has actually led to something new that I'm creating called Superhuman 90. In short, this is just a 90-day reset, a complete reset on your life, but not in the business domain. As I've talked about before, I've always had this obsession with health and fitness, but I've never known how to fit that into my brand. Like, how does lifting and exercise and nutrition and other things fit into a productivity and business and philosophy channel? Because I can't just come in and start telling people to go beast mode and have this very masculine aura about me, because that won't get people motivated. So instead, I added a bit more onto that. I started working with my trainer, Randy, to cover the training side and nutrition side to make sure that's comprehensive and give you a spreadsheet to map all of your weights, how to track, how to actually get in the gym, how to feel confident and not feel like everyone's staring at you, how to know what you're doing, but also tacking on the dopamine detox side and the monk mode side and the lifestyle redesign side. So Superhuman 90 is just this complete and total reset. First, we dissect and dig into your psyche to understand your motivations. Then we turn that into fuel to actually commit for 90 days of change. And then at the end of 90 days, you see a complete transformation of mind and body. You look better, you feel better, you're ready to do more work. And on the landing page, we map out day 1 through day 90. What does every milestone feel and look like? What happens to your brain and body? So link in the description to check out Superhuman 90. Now, within each quadrant, there are 3 macro levels of development, and these represent low consciousness, mid consciousness, and high consciousness. And again, these levels were adapted from various models in developmental psychology, like spiral dynamics up here, and we've talked about this in a few videos before, and then the 9 stages of ego development from impulsive to unitive, so how the mind evolves through predictable stages over time. We talked about this one in How to Become More Intelligent Than 99% of People video. So all of these models in developmental psychology have shown that our mind, which is our values, beliefs, and worldview that influence how we think and make decisions, evolves through predictable stages over time. So for Human 1.0 or level 1, we call this the conformist stage. This is the low consciousness way of thinking, and these people value established authority and tradition. It's characterized by narrow-mindedness, black and white thinking, and believing there is only one right way, which often stems from childhood conditioning. Now, Human 2.0, or mid-consciousness, or what we're going to call the individualist, rejects the norm and pursues their own goals. They have the desire to acquire status and be perceived as valuable. They are less narrow-minded, but now believe that their way is the one right way. Now, I would say that 80 to 90% of the entire population falls within those 2 stages. So we're trying to reach level 3 of development because it just makes life that much better. So level 3, Human 3.0, or high consciousness, is the synthesized. They're able to adopt multiple perspectives, connect various patterns of reality, and strategize new paths. They understand that all perspectives hold truths that can be synthesized for more holistic and mutually beneficial results. They can display what some may perceive as level 1 traits, such as narrow-mindedness, but it is an intentional choice to tune out noise, and we'll talk about more of that later when we talk about the pre-trans fallacy. Now, why these 3 stages? Why did I create it like this? Because in a model like spiral dynamics, the spiral describes how individuals shift their focus throughout their development between self and other, like rejecting the religion you grew up in to embrace an individual atheism. So in Human 3.0, this happens when someone reaches a new level in a certain quadrant. Because remember, you're not just leveling up through all of the above unless you're trying to do that. Most people are leveling up a little bit in one. So someone can easily be a level 2 or level 3 in body, but have a level 1 mind, right? That's the typical meathead, or a person who loves fitness but is just dumb as a rock. Or there's people who are spiritually underdeveloped but are very smart, and that's kind of when maybe you get the Hitler scenario, where they're very smart people, they just have zero morals. The descriptions of each level take different shapes in each quadrant, like how a 3.0 synthesized in the vocation quadrant, lower right, can effectively leverage AI to pursue their life's work, while a 1.0 conformist believes AI is purely evil due to a lack of knowledge, skill, and experience. In the body quadrant, or upper right, a low consciousness individual has no understanding of the nutrition they put in their body, leading to obesity and sloth, because they haven't acquired the traits to make better decisions, while a high consciousness individual understands how various nutrients interact with their body and can tweak their diet to help serve their goals. Now, these levels represent your complexity of self in any given domain. The entire Human 3.0 graph is you. So the more complex you are, by cultivating perspective and expanding consciousness, the more interesting life becomes, because you can choose the challenges you wish to take on. Like a video game, level 1 is similar to an NPC or non-player character running on a script. Level 2 is the main character choosing their storyline. And level 3 is the programmer who can create new games that others also enjoy playing. Now, one thing to note here is that lower or higher levels aren't bad or good. They are points of development along someone's journey. Everyone starts at level 0, which is just pure survival instinct. And then you grow and you learn, and if you're born into a good family, then obviously you have a head start. And if you're born into a bad family, then obviously you have a lot of conditioning to undo yourself. But a person who is high consciousness is not somehow better, they're just more developed. And that development obviously has its perks. Now, another thing is that you never leave any given level. You don't leave level 1 to level 2. You don't leave level 2 to level 3. You transcend and include. A level 1 perspective becomes a tool in your toolbox when you transcend to level 2, and so on and so forth. If you're this holy level 3 Human 3.0 level of development, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to get angry sometimes, or that you aren't going to act out, or that you aren't going to be human, or you aren't going to do stupid things, because you are still part level 1 and level 2. If you were in a situation where you had a knife to your throat, you're going to tap into level 0, level 1 thinking and tap into the tool of pure survival instinct. You're going to turn into an animal for a second and try to survive. You're going to fight, flight, or freeze. But we'll discuss more examples of those below. So in order to move through the levels, we have what we call phases, because within each level, there are 3 phases of development that one must go through to reach the next level. Now, these phases represent vertical development, which is moving up a level or regressing back down. When we talk about traits, that's horizontal development. So you kind of need to fill the space of the level vertically and horizontally so that you can move to the next one. Now, there are 3 general patterns that we can observe when an individual goes through a profound change. In other words, moving from one level to the next. So the first phase is dissonance. Once an individual has gotten their taste of their current stage of life, and if they do not get numbed by narrow-mindedness and comfort, they will feel tired of where they are, but unsure what kind of life comes next. Then in phase 2, the uncertainty phase, if that individual becomes aware enough of their distaste, they take an uncertain step into the unknown and open themselves up to new knowledge and skill. And then they go into phase 3, which is discovery. Like navigating a map, they discover the education, tools, resources, and insights that allow them to reach the next level of development. So you get your taste of your current level, and then you start to experience dissonance. Like, this isn't the life I want to live, but I don't know what life I do want to live. You feel lost. You feel like you're in a rut. And then you become okay with that, and you understand, okay, the only thing I can do is take an uncertain step forward and do something new. Then once you do that and you put yourself in that state, you enter the discovery phase, where you discover new avenues to reach a higher potential. Now, one thing to note in here is that people can experience what's called a false transformation. What a false transformation is when someone puts on the mask, showing that they are at a higher level of development when they really aren't. And by doing so, they prolong their development and growth even more because they haven't actually gotten to that point. And when they act like they're higher than they are, they don't actually solve the problems that are keeping them lower. And then those things start to collect dust and actually pull them down. So a few examples is like aesthetic without function, so perfect gym selfies but can't perform basic athletic movements. There's spiritual materialism, so collecting practices, teachers, and experiences as status symbols. There's tool inflation, like startup people and proudly calling yourself a CEO of a company that hasn't made any money. Or tool obsession, specifically believing the latest productivity app or AI will solve fundamental work ethic issues. That one hurts. But things like that, those all make sense. Now, as an example, as development through the phases, an enjoyable life, as shown in flow psychology and the musings of many philosophers such as Nietzsche, resides in the progression through these phases by overcoming resistance. Profound change rarely happens by accident. When you are intentional about your vision, goals, and priorities without regressing by nature of distractions and comfort, the chaos that would consume most people during these phases become tolerable and often the most fulfilling parts of life that you hold close to your heart. Now at level 3 and beyond, individuals can pursue more complex challenges and simulate these phases for the love of the game, like a CEO who sells their company, becomes depressed, and starts another one from a more enlightened point of view, and since they create the game, it becomes infinite. So step 4 now is traits, which are knowledge, experience, and skill. Because in order to move through the phases, so it goes traits to phases, phases to levels, levels across all quadrants, the traits, knowledge, skill, and experience must be acquired before the next level reveals itself to you. Now, a common thing here is knowledge without experience or experience without knowledge. So fat personal trainer syndrome. So someone who's very knowledgeable in fitness but haven't actually practiced it or developed the skill or experience to actually show or reflect that knowledge in their physique. And even here, some people will experience a false transformation and think that being fat is being healthy. So that makes sense. In order to move through the phases, dissonance, uncertainty, discovery, you have to acquire knowledge. So if you're uncertain and you're stepping into the unknown, you need to learn. You need to learn something. That's what helps with the uncertainty. It's because you don't know, you don't have clarity. And then when you're in the discovery phase and you are a bit more clear, you need to practice. You need to build something of your own toward a goal you're trying to achieve. Now, the 5th part here is what we call channels. So on the actual graph, you can see that I put like these little curly brackets in a sense, but this is how you kind of accelerate through your development. This is how you accelerate through each level. So you can think of a channel as an exciting quest in a video game, a rabbit hole of knowledge or skill. So when you can't stop researching a topic or working on a project and time passes by surprisingly quick. So think of like a flow state. So a few examples would be for mind, becoming immersed in a deep meditative state, which is skill, or following a line of thought that keeps you up at night, resulting in a plethora of ideas that light up your brain, leading to more knowledge. Then for body, you find a new diet, supplement, or methodology and binge watch all possible content you can about it, which leads to knowledge. You become obsessed with running or lifting for a 3-month period, making more gains than you ever have before, skill. And again, superhuman 90, right? You want the knowledge and you want a way to practically change your life. That'll do it. Dopamine detox protocol, nutrition protocol, lifestyle design protocol, training program, the one that I personally use. In spirit, there's mystical experiences, honeymoon phases, intimate moments, finding a philosophy that clicks with your current phase of life, and so on. Then in vocation, there's examples like reaching a point of maximum clarity that quickly leads into exciting career change, product launch, or creative stint, leading to skill. You find the perfect opportunity and can't stop learning the required skills to start a business, which is knowledge. Now, the process of entering a channel to make progress faster than you ever have before is as follows. First, you must reach the dissonance phase after you fully acclimate to the level you are in. Once you grow tired of where you are, and if you don't become numb to your problems, you use your distaste as fuel to push into the unknown. You create an aim or vision or goal within a specific quadrant like body. You begin acquiring knowledge and skill. You learn and do. You make mistakes and refine your aim. You experiment enough until you find the channel that you get sucked into. You can tell someone is in a channel by how excited they are when they are talking about it, like someone who has reached the point of writing a book where the words can't stop flowing. They have vision. Their skill and knowledge provide a sense of clarity that allows them to shoot forward in progress. When you are in a dissonance phase, or you feel lost, or like you're stuck in a rut, the best advice I can give is to try more things. Try new things. I know it sounds basic, so how do we make it more complex? You search for excitement and enthusiasm and pursue those things without shame, because that shame signals a lower level of mind, and you can develop the skill of confidence during that. Now, there's one aspect of Human 3.0 that very few models talk about, and I call them glitches, right? Like a glitch in the matrix, a way to kind of make progress using technology. Because there are certain tactics to force yourself into a channel or bust through developmental plateaus that we will call these glitches. Like a glitch in the matrix, if the matrix were boundaries of level 1 and 2 until you create your own in level 3. As examples, psychedelics can force someone into a mystical experience. PEDs can accelerate fitness progress, obviously. You think of Lance Armstrong or The Rock or Thor or whatever it is. Another example is moving into an apartment you can't afford so that you create a real deadline, forcing you to learn and do until you make your side business work. I talked about that multiple times. Tactical stress, a tool to kick you into an intense season of progress. Now with this, AI is the most recent and widely available glitch that crosses into all domains, and it can be used to self-develop or self-destruct rapidly. This is why taste and discernment is required. AI is only pure good or pure evil from a limited level 1 perspective. Now, with any glitch or risk, be careful with these, because even if they accelerate progress, they increase in risk at lower levels of consciousness. If you take psychedelics without prior experience to interpret that altered state, you may go insane. Obviously, if you take PEDs from an uneducated state and without understanding risk mitigation, then yeah, you're going to die early of heart failure. AI psychosis and outsourcing your mind to AI is becoming more prevalent, not because AI is bad, but because it's like taking steroids. If you haven't built a base, extensively studied all domains of nutrition, understood all potential interactions, and been training for 5+ years metaphorically, the AI will have nasty side effects. Even then, many high reward mechanisms in reality come at a cost no matter how careful you are. For certain people with certain goals, one can make a conscious decision to take that risk despite the consequences. For most people, especially in level 1, they're death sentences. So max out your natural potential first so you have ample experience and don't get one-shotted. All right, now my favorite part, archetypes and metatypes. So in this model, I've included what are called archetypes and metatypes. An archetype is a pattern of people that show up in specific quadrants and levels within those quadrants. Metatypes are the synthesis of a single person's 4 archetypes within each quadrant. Now you'll notice that there is a general progression from low consciousness to high consciousness as someone develops themselves within a quadrant. So NPC to player to creator, incel to Chad to Sigma, job to career to calling, religion to atheism to mysticism, and we can see this here, right? So in the mind quadrant, you have NPC, people who are just running on a script. Then you move up to level 2, which is player, then level 3, which is creator. In body, you have an incel, kind of skinny fat body, then you turn into a Chad that's only focused on vanity, and then you turn into a Sigma who has a developed body, but has tacked on a philosophical sense of mastery behind their actual fitness and health. Then in vocation, there's obviously job, career, and calling. And now spirit, this one's going to make some people angry, but there's religion, atheism, and mysticism. That brings up the topic of the pre-trans fallacy by Ken Wilber, which occurs when people confuse pre-rational or level 1 states with trans-rational or level 3 states because both appear non-rational from a conventional rational or level 2 perspective. In other words, one can elevate a level 1 primitive state to level 3 status, and some often reduce genuine level 3 development to being primitive thinking. So an example here is that in religion, we have the Bible thumpers, right? That's level 1. You just submit to authority, do what you're told, never question a thing. So that's level 1. And then level 3, there's mysticism or a more enlightened Christianity or whatever religion, right? This is religion or ideology agnostic. What I'm stating is that most of the level 3 characteristics and principles that you operate your life by are going to also be found in the level 1 style of thinking. You just don't submit to the authority, and you came to that conclusion on your own rather than only being listened to what other people told you. Now, as you can see here, I mapped some points behind this, right? That's what this white area is, where we have some level 3 areas, some level 2. So we have 4 points in the red area, we have 8 points in the blue, and we have 12 points in the green. So overall, this person at this level of development is human 2.0, and the metatype we came up with is called the outlier. So this is someone who has drifted away from mainstream patterns without rebellion and is operating from a countercultural lens. So how do we come to these metatypes? What are more examples, and how do you create your own? Oh, and one last thing. This is what I mean by the pre-trans fallacy, right? Level 1 thinkers think a certain way, level 3 thinkers think very similarly, and then level 2 are just like, no, it can't be that way. This is the most true meme that has ever came out in the history of existence. Now, potential archetypes, which I think are fun, and you probably understand a lot of these. In the mind quadrant, level 1, there's programmed, sleeper, follower, repeater, echo, so just like echoing what they've heard. Level 2, the questioner, skeptic, contrarian, philosopher, analyst. Then 3, synthesizer, architect, oracle, systems thinker, metamind. In body, there's level 1, couch potato, skinny fat, walking dead, mall walker, diet hopper. There's level 2, gym bro, cardio bunny, biohacker, athlete, orthorexic. Level 3, integrated mover, physical artist, body master, longevity optimizer. Although this one is big on false transformations like we talked about. Everyone is hopping on the longevity game now. It's the new status game. I would argue that most people hopping on the Brian Johnson longevity optimization aren't optimizing their longevity at all and aren't thinking for themselves. So these aren't specific to any level. These are just examples. Now, level 1 for the spirit quadrant could be true believer, fundamentalist, tribalist, tradition keeper, blind faith. Level 2 is spiritual shopper, nihilist, hedonist, New Age wanderer, militant atheist. Level 3 is the bridge builder, sacred secular, modern mystic, community weaver, integral, and vocation. Level 1, clock puncher, wage slave, complainer, cog. Level 2, hustler, entrepreneur, freelancer, ladder climber, side gigger. Level 3, mission driven, system builder, value creator, renaissance professional, game designer. So that's the entire model, but how do you actually do this? How do you actually move up to new levels in your life? And how does one balance development across all different levels? Especially if one quadrant exhausts all of your focus and energy right now, like if you're working a 9-to-5 job, that takes up a lot of time and energy. So we'll start like this. The ultimate goal is to create a lifestyle where all quadrants are accounted for through problem solving. If your vocation consumes too much of your time so that your mind is distraught, you are too drained for your body and cannot entertain spirit, that is an obvious problem that you must attempt to solve through knowledge and skill acquisition, creating the chance for a channel or flow state or season of progress. In this case, one may study business opportunities for an hour every day and make some time for practice. It may take longer than someone else, but once you begin moving through the phases, you feel more confident that you can decrease or completely eliminate the current job that is taking up your time. This is also a good time to understand what the highest lever moving skills are and base potential opportunities off of that. The reason that my business is built off of 2 hours of writing in the morning, that's my entire routine, is because writing is media and digital media is leverage, because one person can write it and 1 million people can see it. Writing is also a way to clarify your thoughts and journal and learn and research. Almost everything you do in any kind of business, from writing landing pages to content, to captions, to ads, to video scripts, etc., the foundation is writing, right? If you choose a skill that isn't as holistic, then it's going to take a lot longer to see results. The reason I created something like 2-Hour Writer, which goes over my systems, is because I truly believe that writing is one of the greatest skills you can learn. That's why you create a product. Why wouldn't I create a product that I fully believe in and I think will get results? I mean, almost 30,000 people have bought it now, so that's a good thing. Now, the thing with this, as you start solving problems in your life or identifying one problem that's taking away from other quadrants and then trying to solve it, is that that shift may make another problem more apparent. Like if you're trying to start a business but you're still low energy, then it's going to be difficult to land potential customers or to actually write well or have great ideas. Reaching the next level of business may not require more development in business, but in solving problems related to the body, mind, or spirit. Even then, you may build an incredible business and have all the money in the world, but you can have a hole in the middle of your chest due to a lack of meaning in your vocational pursuits. By the simple nature of problem solving and staying vigilant of distractions that prevent you from noticing them, you create a lifestyle where work becomes play, health is your default state, meaning is abundant, and your mind is on your side. Now, if you want to study this more on your own, what I would recommend doing is going to the links in the description, getting the Human 3.0 knowledge base, copy pasting it into AI or into an AI project, and just start asking it questions, and I think you'll be surprised. Second, if you want to find your metatype, then you can go and also download the metatype prompt. All you do is send this prompt into Claude or ChatGPT, and then it will start asking you questions and break it down. This is actually crazy because one, a business partner / close friend of mine plugged this in and it made him cry because it went that deep. So if you want to understand yourself a lot, try out the metatype prompt. And of course, like, subscribe, comment if you enjoyed this, because I can always make more videos about Human 3.0. Just let me know. A like or comment will help. Sometimes I don't like to comment on things and that's fine, but a like, pretty easy. So with that, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.